book girl, a lot of people are asking what do you think about the new Star Trek Discovery show that just came out on CBS Sunday nights.
Evasive maneuver 7 Alpha.
Well, Space Brain, I watched the pilot for Star Trek Discovery. Not really interested.
But you're a huge fan of Star Trek, so I thought you would like Star Trek Discovery. But you made a whole show about Gene Roddenberry and your love of Star Trek. Greater creators.
I'm a fan of Star Trek, specifically The Next Generation. I really love Star Trek The Next Generation. It's my bread and butter right here. I've watched a little bit of the original series. Haven't done Deep Space Nine or Voyager yet. I've tried, I've seen episodes here and there, but I've never really gotten hooked and done the whole thing. Maybe we'll do that later on in my life at some point. But the thing that I really like about Star Trek is how positive it is. It has a very positive outlook on the future of humanity. And it's like humanity gets its shit together. We solve our fucking problems on Earth so much so that we have to go out into space to deal with new problems. And so now we just explore the stars looking for new life and chilling out, being diplomats, and I think that's pretty awesome. Okay, especially in this show. Gene was still alive when they were developing this, and so he very much had a hand in the first few seasons of how it came together. And he was very adamant that you can't write conflict between the people on board because they're so mature that they don't have conflicts like that. They're all really emotionally stable, awesome adults who deal with their problems through communication. And not to say there's never a problem, but it's you can't make up problems through the interpersonal relationships of the crew members. You have to do something else, and that's kind of hard to write. That's what I think this makes it so unique, because there's not a lot of shows that are like that. And so I watched the new Star Trek Discovery, and I used to be a little bit more excited about it when Brian Fuller was set to be the showrunner on it. He's done showrunning stuff on a lot of really great projects. And so I was okay, and I felt good in his hands. But then I heard that he was fired or let go, or he left or whatever. Him and CBS, they totally had a falling out. And so then then after that I was okay, I don't think it's gonna be that great, And then it came out, and then it wasn't that great. It was just okay, well, it's not very positive. It's kind of dark. The crew members are fighting amongst each other. I do realize that it takes place before Next Gen and even before the original series. It's supposed to take place in between Enterprise and the original series. So it's from an earlier time.
But don't you think that it has a chance to get better? The Next Generation, they say, wasn't very good in its first couple of episodes and got better towards season 3 and 4.
Yeah, of course, again, we live in a universe of possibilities. Anything can happen. This show could totally turn around and become a great show. And I'm sure that maybe for other people who aren't really invested in that the positivity of the Star Trek future, if that's not kind of what you're coming here for, then you might be way more into it. You might appreciate it and like it a lot more if you're not here for that, Gene Roddenberry positive human future. Because this is definitely, obviously seemingly about a giant war. So
a war in space?
Instead of a Star Trek, we've kind of in a Star War now. It's a trek. It's not a war. It's a trek. It's not a war. Whatever. It's fine.
Teacher, do you think most people don't get Star Trek?
Well, the reality of the situation is when someone's going to put all this money and time into making a new Star Trek show, they want this show to be seen by as many people as possible. They want a really wide audience. So I think that when they made this new show, they made it for people who are interested in Star Wars, because that's obviously a huge fucking audience. So they're well, how do we make Star Trek more Star Wars? And so that's kind of what they did. But when they do that, then it gets away from kind of what the creator's original intention was with this show. Honestly, I think that humanity is to blame, if you want to point the finger at anybody, because they're just dumbing down the conflict, and it's just okay, whatever. I do think that Picard and his crew would have handled that situation much better. That was in the pilot episode with the Klingon torch thing.
Oh yeah. Teacher, what do you think about the Orville? A lot of people have been asking.
I mean, I think the Orville is more Star Trek than Star Trek is, which is ironic and weird, but I don't think that that's very good either. Like, I'm not gonna watch that either.
Which would you rather watch, Star Trek Discovery or the Orville?
Oh, God. I mean, I guess if I was forced to watch one or the other, I would probably choose the Orville. Although I still don't really want to watch it. But I did enjoy some of the puppets and stuff that they're doing on there. They had some really cool practical effects puppets that look really nuts.
Special effects are good too.
Yeah. But I mean, the special effects are really good in Star Trek. In fact, it's the best special effects that Star Trek has ever had. But I think that almost is like, it's not helping them at all. Like, I think that the strength of Star Trek was that they were kind of low budget and they did kind of have to just make it work with what they had. But like, their premise was so strong that like, as an audience, we forgave them for that, and we were like totally down for that ride. The strength of Next Generation is that, you know, they're mostly self-contained episodes that are almost like a stage play, where they really have to rely upon the story and what's going on because they don't have a crazy budget or like amazing effects.
They can't afford to do a space battle.
Not like that, you know, not like that. And but it's great. But it's like I'm totally with them. And I kind of love some of their really shitty special effects that they do. There's like this one robot that flew around that was like a sentient robot that looks so stupid, and I love it.
But that was a great story.
It was a great story though. It was a super great story. I thought it was really great. So, you know, with Star Trek Discovery, it's like, yeah, they have like amazing visuals and like all this fucking, it's like really beautiful. Another thing about Star Trek Discovery is that it's like what looks like it's gonna be this kind of story arc where you have this interstellar conflict between the Klingons and the Federation and that whole situation and how that's developing versus having the episode of the week, you know, monster of the week kind of thing going on, which I personally miss. I miss that. I liked it when you just had a show. And
you missed the one-off episodes?
I miss the one-off episodes. The thing is, I don't watch a lot of shows. I'm really busy and I don't necessarily want to commit. And like, if you have this show where it's like you have to watch every episode in order to understand exactly what's going on, that's why it's such a commitment. Whereas with this show, I mean, I know the basic premise. I can tune in any season and figure out what's going on, and it's fine. The thing that I'm really impressed with Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I'm sure this goes into Deep Space Nine and Voyager, but the plethora of sci-fi concepts that they delve into. Like, they really go over like everything you can think of. You know, they talk about everything. I mean, Star Trek has gone there with a lot of stuff. They've really gone there. And I really appreciate that because they can't make a show about the internal conflicts of the characters and their interpersonal relationships. Instead, they really do have to come up with all these really crazy concepts. It's the conflict instead. Like, it talks about a lot of like moral and ethical gray areas.
Like, could a robot have a soul?
Yeah, there's a whole like Data episode where it's like, does he have dominion over himself or is he Starfleet property? You know, like there's a whole episode about that. There's a whole episode about what do you do when you encounter an alien race that's like androgynous, but then one of them feels like they're more of a female and they want to like run away, but then their culture is like, no, we can fix you and make you androgynous, and then they just have to kind of like go along with it, and it's like this fucked up story, and you're just like, whoa, like that went really weird, you know? I didn't expect that, Star Trek, but you did it.
Reverse oppression of what people have on Earth?
Yeah, it's like reverse pray the gay away stuff, you know? They did that. You know, like they did that. They did that really amazing episode, The Inner Light, where there's a probe in space and like Picard comes in contact with it and is like downloaded all these memories and lives the life of somebody and sees the death of this entire species and this planet, and then wakes up on the bridge of his deck and he's like, oh my god, I just lived a whole lifetime, but really it was just a probe like showing him this whole thing. And I was like, what? Then you have the Borg coming into it. I mean, it's like, what do you do about those fuckers? I mean, I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff.
That's only touching the surface, too.
This is just me. I have no list prepared for this. I'm just talking out my ass right now. And do I think that I'm going to see stuff like that in Star Trek Discovery? No. I think that I'm going to see a crew of people together, and then they have all these interpersonal relationships and conflicts between themselves, and then they're trying to solve this big problem that's going to be this overarching problem the entire series, which is essentially war with the Klingons. So the deal is that Star Trek: The Next Generation is the bomb, is bae, and I will continue to just go back and watch these instead of watching the new show. I'll just keep doing what I've been doing on Netflix and just pop a random on. There's 7 seasons. There's like 20-some episodes a season.
Don't you have it on Blu-ray too?
I do have it on Blu-ray. I got it on DVD and then later I got it on Blu-ray.
So you have it on Blu-ray and on DVD, but it's also on Netflix.
But it's also, yeah, it is also on Netflix. So sometimes, I mean, I have my pick of the litter. I can go any way I want. You know, it's interesting. One of the first projects I worked on when I came to LA was on T-Bone's Star Trek short, Life in Space. It's like a parody Star Trek thing. Kind of like the Orville, except like, I think actually funny. And it also stars Robot, and I'm in it just somewhere. It's not even worth mentioning, really. And also, we did a 15-minute bio on Gene Roddenberry for a Greater Creators series. So you can also check out that if you're interested in learning more about the man behind Star Trek. Interesting guy.